Welcome to Your Biz, Your Rules, the podcast for business-minded go-getters hosted by me, your favourite brain and biz coach, Daire Paddy. This is the spot for those of you ready to blend heart and head, woo and do, income and impact, change and chill, and so much more. So grab yourself a cuppa and let's get started. Hello, and welcome to episode 239 of Your Biz, Your Rules. This week, I'm once again being joined by the wonderful Leeza Robertson, and we are diving into some of her very best advice for making consistently powerful moves in your business so that the thing that you create aligns perfectly with your values, but also with the desires you have for the life you want to be living. So enjoy this episode, take notes, take action, and if you haven't already, go back and listen to our first discussion together, last week's episode, because God knows that was full of some rather tasty takeaways too. Well, I am back with the fabulous Leeza Robertson to dive in a little bit deeper into some rules that we're redefining in our businesses. So let's dive straight in. Leeza, what is a rule that you've either adopted or created in your business?
I think the rule that I have adopted, especially since I went into publishing, was the get up and walk away. Get up, walk away, and delete rule. It's one of these things that I know people are really uncomfortable with, and spending a lot of time on something and it not working, and then trying to constantly fix stuff. But publishing taught me that sometimes things just aren't fixable. So you need to either get rid of them or walk away from them. So that's the rule that I have adopted in the last 5 years. And I've got to tell you, stress levels have gone down tremendously since I adopted it.
So I'm curious, how do you do that when it's something that you've poured so much time and so much love into?
You just trash it. So here's where I actually think that my, and I know a lot of people don't actually know this, but I went to art school. So when I was at university, I actually was in art school. I got offered a couple of different places at a couple of different universities in Melbourne to do art. So one of them was a sculptural program, and the one I ended up going into was an education program. So where I'm actually a fully qualified art teacher. And when I started art school, we had to do every single, everything on the curriculum. Like, we didn't get a choice. We had to do it. Our days were packed, right? And one of the classes that was compulsory for the first 3 years was life drawing, which I suck at so bad. And my lecturer at the time was this drunken, narcissistic, depressive. And unless something was perfect, which was about 70% of the people I was with, because I was a sculptor, I was not a drawer. He would just walk up to you and just tear it up and throw it in the bin and tell you were trash. And that was just your experience. So that was pretty much the first 2 years of my university drawing. And he actually got to the point where he told me he was going to fail me. I would come to class and this man would literally tell me every single day, "You're useless. You're taking up space. You shouldn't be in this program. You're a complete waste of time. I'm going to fail you. I want you out of this program," yada, 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 yada. So he ended up having a nervous breakdown and he didn't complete the second semester. And I ended up with this woman who actually was an abstract artist, and she had exhibited all over the world, and she went through my folio, and what she did is she packed it, because I'm very, very good at abstract. My abstract stuff was phenomenal. And I'd sold a couple of pieces. So what she did is she just repacked my folio and asked me to submit 10 more abstract pieces, and that got me through, the lowest grade I've ever had in my life, but I didn't care because I got through and I was great. So, and it was interesting because in that moment, that's so soul crushing, right? To just see your crap just tore up and be told how terrible you were. But it really set me up. It really set me up for later in life, because now I can actually work on something, identify that it's a piece of trash, and get rid of it. So that's why I'm a little better at it. And I'll just give you a prime example because it literally just happened. I just spent the last 2 months working on a proposal for my next book, and my editor is actually waiting for this proposal. And I worked on it and I wrote it, and then I put it away, which is what I normally do. And then I opened it back up and I started reading through it. I was like, oh my God, this is just the worst thing I have literally ever written in my life. And I deleted it. Like, just hit the delete button. 2.5 months of work, put it in the trash, hit delete. Well, our gardeners are here. I hope you can hear. So I wrote to my editor and I said, really sorry, but what I wrote was such complete rubbish. It would have burnt your eyeballs out. I deleted it. I'll start again. Now, because my publishers know me, they were like, we were wondering what happened. That's great. Thanks for letting us know. Good luck on the second draft. But when I told a friend of mine, they literally like had an anxiety attack. Like, why would you do that? Like, how could you possibly do that? But at the end of the day, we can waste so much time trying to fix things that aren't fixable. And I'm all for the whole Marie Forleo figure it outable philosophy. But there are some things that you literally have to delete or walk away from and start again. And if we can get that programmed into our brain, that's going to like eliminate 80% of all the suffering we have in our business. Because I really feel that people make themselves busy trying to fix things that would have been quicker if they just started again.
I feel like this will be really good advice for those of us, and I'm saying us because I have a habit of doing this too, who create reactively sometimes. So maybe it's reacting to the fact that we need to make more money, or it's reacting to maybe an idea that came up when you had a conversation with something or something like that. You're reacting to something and you go off and like get the thing done straight away. So I'm like that prime person of taking action immediately and creating a thing almost overnight. But sometimes it's not the right thing.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not. And so here's one of the things that I also do that I have made a bit of a rule, and I know I'm getting 2 rules here and not 1, is I actually write myself a brief first. And again, this has come from publishing, but I do this in my business. So I sit down before I even create something and I make sure I have a brief for it. So why am I creating it? Who am I creating it for? What are the audience getting out of it? How is it benefiting them? And is this the right time for this type of program? Right? So I write a brief that answers all of those questions. So while I'm creating, I can keep coming back to it and seeing, did I actually fulfill the brief? And that's what happened with that proposal, because when I went back to the brief, I was like, I didn't answer one freaking thing in this brief. And I think that's a really good way for course content creators to actually work, is to spend time on getting the brief right. Because then if you're not answering that brief, then you delete it and you start again. Like, because you need to make sure that you're putting stuff out there that your clients want, that answer a problem and concern right here and right now. Because I've seen this a lot of time too, where people just put the right course at the wrong time. So like that's not really where people's heads are now. Might be 6 months from now, but it's not right now. So giving yourself a little bit of space to create these briefs for your courses, or briefs for your contents, or briefs for your pre-launch will save so much time, because then everything you're doing is just answering that brief, and you know that you're going to be on track, and anything that doesn't, you just get rid of it. Don't waste your time on it.
I think that is an absolute gem of a piece of advice for those listening who are the downloaders. So the people who channel ideas and channel content and have these amazing visions for what they want to create without thought about like how it works structurally and how it works in the marketplace. Like, I think that if you could pair that sort of intuitive magic with, the confines of a brief that you're writing for yourself, so it's not somebody else telling you what to do, right, I think that will allow you to ground those ideas and create something really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I am an actual channel, And these downloaders like blow my mind. Like, I'm like, I don't understand. Like, how can you channel the right information if you don't have a framework to put it in the first place? Like, you've got to have a framework. Otherwise, you're just projecting your ego needs onto your clients, and you haven't asked them if they want it. Because that's a problem. The whole point of business is to serve your clients. It's not to feed your ego. If you want to feed your ego, go be a celebrity. That's what that job's for. But if you're in business, our whole purpose is to serve other people. And in order to make sure we're truly being of service, there has to be some sort of framework to which your content, your work, and everything you do is fulfilling that need in the marketplace.
I always think of channeling as being kind of like a hose pipe. So if you're like, you switch on your hose pipe and you're aiming it into a bucket or a bowl, you know, the structure, you've got something there, you are collecting the water. If you just sort of turn your hose pipe on willy-nilly and just let it go, I mean, it's just going to run away, it's going to seep into the ground, you're not going to be left with any water.
Exactly. It's, for those of us who have had men in our lives, it's like the men who can't aim for the bowl, right? Like,
yeah,
you
those.
want to get it in the bowl. It's the ultimate aim.
The structure is essential.
Exactly. The structure, the brief is absolutely essential. And here's the thing that saves so much time, because one of the biggest time wasters in business is constantly flipping around, right? Constantly flipping from this to 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 this. And then you look at your bank account and you're like, oh my God, I made no money. In fact, I may have lost money this month because nobody bought anything and there were no customers and nobody seemed to get response, or I put all these posts out and nothing. I sent emails, nothing. That's because there is no framework. You're not really thinking about how you're serving those customers. You're not thinking about how are you solving their problems and making their life better. What you're doing is you're flitting around and your ego's looking for, vanity metrics. That was a great idea. I love that idea. Yeah, that's fantastic. Oh, that download really changed my life, or whatever the vanity metrics is that your ego is attached to. And that can be an absolute trap. And it's a bigger trap because that's how people deal with social media. So if you're bringing vanity metrics into your business, then yeah, you're going to go, oh, I don't need a framework. I don't need a brief. But you absolutely do, if the whole point of your business, which it is, that's why it's called business, is to make money.
Mm-hmm. I think it's important to add, when we're talking about this topic, that nudges from your ego are not the same as nudges from your intuition. And I see those two get confused an awful lot.
Yes, intuition and ego get confused all the time. And this is not a new thing. This has always been a thing. This has always been a thing. But your intuition doesn't care if nobody's listening. Okay, your intuition is personal. And that's something that I don't think people understand. Intuition is personal. It's for you. It's for you. It's not out there seeking approval. The ego seeks approval. And we can seek approval in our business by expecting a certain amount of clients to show up in our business, expecting people to give us money without really us answering a problem or solving anything for our client base. Acceptance can show up in form of having to have so many likes, or going viral, or being seen as an influencer, or being asked to be on XYZ conference with XYZ people, right? That's a vanity metrics, and that is not what business is about. Now, is networking important in business? Sure, absolutely. But again, that should be very strategic. There should be a brief, there should be a framework, and you shouldn't just be like trying to get get seen for the sake of being seen. So the ego will always be connected to vanity metrics. The intuition doesn't care. And that's how you know the difference.
Remember that, guys. Remember. I feel like that's such an important lesson. I feel like I have this conversation with people at least once a week. At least.
Right. Well, social media has really distorted how we see our self-worth and the worth of our work. I think that's the thing that people struggle with the most now, is they've started to connect the worth of their work to their self-worth. And social media has really blurred the lines and distorted how we think about that, because everyone wants to be viral. Like, think about it. Like, how many classes are there right now on how to go viral on TikTok, or how to write the perfect post, or how to create the largest, most engaged Facebook group, or, fill in the blank of create the most viral Pinterest board, which I still don't understand Pinterest, but that's okay. So there's all these things that feed into those vanity metrics, right? And then we get this real warped perception of, well, crap, if my business isn't doing that, my business is no good, which means I'm no good. And then we get on this real ego spiral. And that ego spiral programs your chakra system and sets a vibrational frequency within the energetic body, which every time you try to reach a new level of success, it engages and goes, oh no, you don't want that. You want the downward spiral. So we're constantly creating this barrier between us and the things we want by getting hooked on these vanity ego metrics, rather than really trusting intuition. And intuition says, I just want you to be happy. Intuition says, I just want you to have fun. Intuition says, I just don't want you to fall into the trap of the ego. Intuition says, you should go for a walk today. Intuition says, you should eat really good foods that make you feel creative and energized and alive. So we know when we're being out of alignment with intuition, because intuition is life and health and happiness affirming. Ego is, self-deprecating and sabotaging and beating ourselves up.
So do you have any advice for somebody who is just getting caught up in that ego spiral? Like, anything that could help them just sort of interrupt that pattern and pull them out of it?
So I think the first thing that we have to do when we find ourselves in that is we have to come back to the our real base core, which is that I am safe, right? It's a safety thing. When our self-worth gets so beaten up by the external world and our comparison, we really have to just hold our hand on our heart and just keep saying that mantra, I'm safe. Because the whole flight and, that fight and flight mechanism that gets stirred up when our self-worth is crumbled actually deteriorates our level of safety, where we don't feel safe. And when we don't feel safe, we don't trust decisions that we make. And when we're not trusting decisions that we make, we're 100% acting reactively. So the most simplest thing to do is to just spend 2 minutes. That's it, 2 minutes. Set the timer on your phone, 2 minutes of just holding your hands on your heart and doing that deep breathing and just following this mantra, I am safe. I am safe. I am safe. And that helps calm the central nervous system, because the spiral happens when the central nervous system is just freaking out all over the place, right? It's right. So we want to calm that back down. And that is actually one of the best things that you can do when you're feeling really out there. Don't try and do it. People try to do too many complicated things, right? Right. They're like, oh my God, I need this and I need this. No, just take a breath. Just take a breath and calm that central nervous system and tell yourself that you are safe. Because that mantra of saying, I am safe, I am safe, I am safe, and just constantly repeating it for that 2 minutes, not only calms the central nervous system, but it actually starts to deprogram that energetic matrix. And that energetic matrix starts to loosen up. And when it loosens up, that's when we can start other stuff can start to come in and push the other stuff out. But if we're not taking that moment to loosen it up and calm down, and get the entire central nervous system to just whoosh, then it's really hard to move forward.
Simple but effective.
Yeah. And they've been, well, and as humans, we've been doing it for the whole time we've been alive. So it is one of those things of not new, really works. That's why we're still here.
So I know we've gone like in a really fascinating tangent here, but there's something that I wanted to ask you about what we were talking about right at the start, which was about, being able to get up, walk away and trash things.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you've really struggled to do that with? Is there anything that you've really struggled to trash?
Anything I've struggled to trash
or walk away from?
No.
Such a unicorn. I was trying to humanize you for the masses, but okay.
No. And in fact, and this is not just in work. I do this in life too. My wife and I a couple of years ago gave away everything we owned, except for what we could fit into 2 suitcases. We got 1 suitcase each. And I got to say, it was the most liberating thing I think we have ever done. Now, granted, we were thinking that we were going to travel for a couple of years and then the pandemic hit. But I remember going through that entire process. And we talk about this, my wife and I talk about this all the time, because we have no problem giving away everything. Just let it go and start again. So no, I guess we're the ultimate deletes or walk away from it, not just in work, but in life. It's there's something liberating to starting again. There's something really quite liberating to clear the ground and allow yourself to have that tower moment. The tower card in the tarot is great to meditate on this, if you're struggling with this. Is to clear the playing field, clear your energy, clear your mind, and just start again. It's liberating. To me, that's freedom. If you can do that, you reached a certain level of freedom.
Yeah, I think it's a journey for a lot of people. I think you were trained well in that.
I was trained. You just need 2 years of someone telling you you're absolute crap and tearing your shit up in front of you to break that habit. Yeah, I was definitely trained, and now later in life, no, I don't have a problem with it. There's nothing that trips me up. In fact, I actually hate having to try and fix things. I think that's why I struggle with edits for my book, because I'd rather just start again. But that's not how this process works at all. So I actually struggle the other way, trying to make something better rather than just scrapping it and starting again.
I mean, I'm actually fairly similar to you in that respect. I actually find it very easy, and I say I find it easy, it has different types of difficulties, but when I think of relationships, I find it very easy to walk away when I know it's not right. Even though it might be emotional and I might have complicated feelings around it, the decision is always an easy decision. And it's similar in business as well. When, doesn't matter how long I've been working on something, if I just decide that actually, no, I'm done now, I've had enough of this, I will just walk away from it.
Yeah, well, and relationships are key in business, right? So if we come back to business again, and we're talking about being able to walk away from things, I also think too, if you have clients, I think this is a really big one. If you have clients who aren't respecting your boundaries, who are sucking up all your time, and you know good and well that you're this investment of time is something you can't get back. Time is the one resource you can never get back. Once it's gone, it's gone. It's not like money where you can keep putting money into your bank account till you drop dead. Time's done. I wish I could take the last 10 years and bring them back a little bit, but nope, no, you can't. So when you've got clients who really are just not hitting the marks for you, and I know people struggle with this, you've got to be able to tell them goodbye. You've got to be able to say goodbye to the money, the drama, and have, and live with the fact that that person is probably going to say something bad about you on social media.
I want to add something to that list there. Say goodbye to the money, the drama, and the need to be needed, because I think that's what keeps people working with that kind of client for longer, because you feel so indispensable.
Exactly. And that was something that I had a problem with in my last business, because the person that I worked with wouldn't let people go. Whereas I have very strong boundaries, and I don't have a problem telling you to bugger off. Like, I really don't, because as I said, life is too short and you don't get time back.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get here's the other thing too. We think about time as something on a clock, but time is also connected to our health and our mental well-being. And if you've just spent 6 weeks really stressed and emotionally upset about that, then you can double the time that you've lost, because now you've done damage to your physical body. You're holding that stress and anxiety in your organs. Your mind has been focused on nothing but this one client that is causing so many problems, which means you're disconnected from your relationships. So you can double the time you've lost if you are holding on to something that is really not beneficial for you as a human being and as a creative producer. So yes, I'm glad you brought up relationships, because being able to walk away from those in business is super important.
But it can feel really messy. Like, it doesn't always feel cut and dry. It can feel really messy, but that doesn't mean it's the wrong decision.
Exactly.
I always like to say that if you're saying yes to something, it means you're saying no to something else. And sometimes, like, that's a good balance, but sometimes it's really not. And you have to ask yourself, like, what is it that I'm saying no to if I keep doing this, or if I keep engaging in this, or if I keep working on that?
Right. So we're also programming our center of consent. And in business, consent is really important. So the throat chakra deals with consent. So that this comes back to what you were saying. What am I saying yes and what am I saying no to? So what you continuously say yes to, you're programming into the throat chakra as you consent to this. You consent to be treated this way. You consent to be spoken to this way. This is how you're saying that the rest of the world gets to engage with you. And if we really think about that, is that really how we want the rest of the world to engage with us? Like, seriously. So can you just let it go and walk away? And the same comes back to, so that's with people, but it's also with our work. Like, are you saying yes to this work? Are you saying yes to what you're putting out? Are you saying this is how you want other people to engage with you? Which is one of the reasons I got rid of the pitch. Not only did it not effectively answer the brief that I'd already written for myself and it had been okayed, but that is not how I wanted my work to be engaged with, right? That is not the relationship I wanted to establish with the readers. So it had to go. And that again comes back to when on the online space, communication is all we have. It's all we have. People are listening to us on videos, or they're reading our posts, or they're engaging in our masterclasses. So if our level of consent in our throat chakra, that center of communication, is not really firm and established, then yeah, you might have to like delete, clear, and walk away from a lot of things to get that right, because you're setting up the entire matrix of engagement with everything you do. So you got to be careful.
And once again, I mentioned this in the last episode, but check out Leeza's book, Tarot Healer, for more support with your throat chakra needs.
Oh, it's not there. It's on the floor. I was going to show you it, but I don't have it.
Yeah, mine is by my bed. That's where I've been doing my tarot healing. So I feel like we've jumped into so much good stuff in this show, and yeah, definitely go and check out the show notes where everything will be summarized so that you can refer back, because I know that we've talked about like different questions and different exercises that I highly encourage you dig into in your journals, because just give it a go and see what comes up. But to wrap up today, this is something that I like to ask all of my guests, Leeza. What is a song that makes you feel like your best self?
That's hard, because I don't think I have one.
Or a song that just gets you in the zone.
I don't think I have one. Because
No?
actually,
Okay.
because I get in the zone in silence.
Okay.
Silence is my song. Like when all the noise drops away, that's when I'm in my zone. Like it's actually can be hard for me to focus if I'm listening to music. Now, once I'm in the zone, then I can put some music on, but that's not normally what gets me in the zone. So sorry, no song from me.
That's okay. That will just be a little space in our Your Biz, Your Rules Spotify playlist. So it's okay. Everyone hit pause if you want to listen to Leeza's silent song.
Exactly. Well, right. It goes back to the delete, right? The delete, walk away, create space, clear your mind. I need that silence in order to like really focus in and get into making sure that I am fulfilling the framework of the brief that I've created for the work that I'm about to do.
I love that. I love how everything that you're talking about in terms of your creative productivity process actually fits together. Because I think that that can be a challenge that a lot of people have, especially if you're sort of picking and choosing practices that you've heard about from other people. There's sort of a bit of a mishmash and they don't necessarily always sync up. But the way that you talk about the way that you work, it's very much intentional and slots together like a nice little jigsaw puzzle.
And that's how you save time. And that's how you save time, kids. So you only work 2 to 3 hours a day.
There you go. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you.
Always happy to chat.
Thank you for listening to Your Biz, Your Rules. I know that we all like to listen to podcasts, watch videos, read articles or books or posts on Facebook and not really do anything with that information. So I want to challenge you right now. I want to challenge you to take something from this episode, anything, and use it to spark action, use it to activate some kind of change in the way you work and the way you live. Do yourself this service today and tell me all about it on Instagram. Hop over, shoot me a DM or share an Instagram story showcasing what action you are taking thanks to this episode. And of course, do all of the usual things. Subscribe, leave a review, let me know how much you love the show, and I'll be back with you next week.